Storytelling and intrigue of the unknown are universal cornerstones of the human experience. This is reflected in popular culture when stories centered around the idea that we are not alone in the universe are predominant. From movies to television to literature and beyond, aliens and UFO culture are commonplace within the pop culture landscape.
When it comes to the portrayal of UFOs in media and all other mediums of non-fiction, we can turn to ufology, the discipline studying UFOs and all other UFO-related phenomena.
Dissect it, photograph it, discuss it, look at it.
That's the B-roll from the footage, but it's just...
That is the Phoenix Lights.
You would swear that it's another object out there.
Those are literally just unidentified flying objects. In science, it's okay to just say we don't know.
Through this documentary, we will chronicle the growth of ufology and analyze the effects that differing models of mass media have on this controversial subject. As discussed by researcher Anne Cross, it is evident that unprecedented growth in the field of ufology has taken place in recent times. We can see how greater access to information through new media technology has opened many communicative channels that were previously closed. And as a result, we feel that in general,
Innovations in new media technologies have served as an outlet to facilitate raw, honest, and diverse expressions, thus changing the role of the media consumer from passive observer to active participant.
Whoever controls the media controls the mind. When big corporations try to control or manipulate mass opinion, dissemination of mass communication becomes available to mass public.
You can see how this is directly related to the century of the television. As Dr. Michael Strangelove explained, audiences at this time were highly controlled, only able to watch and listen to media. We can truly see how at this time, media conglomerates were meaning-making machines.
Which means that there was no room for retroaction. They didn't really care what the audience thought. It was their opinion and that's all.
as explained by ufologist Dr. Stephen Greer, it would appear as though, through these top-down models of media production, gatekeeping barriers could influence and censor information.
If you create enough false information, what's known as disinformation, that makes the subject seem ridiculous or frightening, people don't want to hear about it. It's very easy to do this because you can control the worldview on it by creating videotapes and movies and books that either frighten people and turns them off or makes it seem so ridiculous that they dismiss it as nonsense. The intelligence community has at every major wire service, news magazine, and television network, not just the United States, but around the world, agents embedded in those media to kill, alter, change stories as needed.
What are the implications of this? According to Gustave Le Bon, who studied the psychology of the crowd, he tells us that a mass has very different behavioral characteristics as one would on an individual basis. They seem to be very emotional, irrational, lack judgment, and morals as well. They're seeking guidance, and who better to follow than key decision makers at that time, which was the media, radio, and television. A prime example of the dangers of this model can be seen with 1938's pop culture classic from Orson Welles' War of the Worlds. This was a radio hoax where it basically said that aliens were coming down and attacking civilization. While the listeners were so intrigued by this and so manipulated by the power of the media, they actually thought it was real.
This is Orson Welles, ladies and gentlemen, out of character, to assure you that the War of the Worlds has no further significance than as the holiday offering it was intended to be. We annihilated the world before your very ears and utterly destroyed the CBS. You will be relieved, I hope, to learn that we didn't mean it, and that both institutions are still open for business.
This goes to show the potential power and the amount of influence that a unidirectional media communication flow has on its audience, and why it's so important to have feedback amongst the viewers and listeners. The media is too concentrated. Too few people own too much. There's really 5 companies that control 90% of what we read, see, and hear. It's not healthy.
In order for media systems to sustain power, they have to comply to certain standards set in place by advertisers. And as Dr. Strangelove explained, advertisers won't touch marginalized topics. This puts constraints on media producers' ability to air diverse content. This had a negative impact on ufology.
I have a family member who was the city editor of the Boston Globe. Even if we put an extraterrestrial body on her desk, she would not run a story about it in the Boston Globe because the subject has been the object of so much tabloid nonsense that it would be disreputable. Once you get into the large corporate international media, they're plugged into the international corporate finance and international interest.
The implications of corporate control over pop culture appear to go even further. It also affects what Habermas calls the public sphere. Within a public sphere, members of society are able to openly and equally share ideas and opinions with one another. Unfortunately, Habermas explains that our public sphere has become captured and refeudalized due to commercial state operations. This has had a negative impact on members of society and our ability to generate meanings and create pop culture.
After an analysis of the corporate media model and its influences on popular culture, we can see that this system is unable to fully represent certain subjects. The benefits of an open, uncensored, and accessible media system prove to be a large factor contributing to the growth of ufology from a small, marginalized topic into a recognizable feature of popular culture. Even so, some of the norms created through traditional media systems still hold power today. As observed by Kenneth Bowers of the University of Waterloo, traditional notions and connotations surrounding the subject of alien contact and UFOs are still commonly regarded with a level of scorn.
Star Trek 5, worse than 1. Okay, first of all, that's a comparison of quality, not intensity. Secondly, Star Trek 1 is orders of magnitude worse than Star Trek 5.
UFO and extraterrestrial, they think somebody from a trailer park in West Virginia who's floated on board a spacecraft had sex with someone from Mars and claims they have a baby in an incubator.
However, with the growing dominance of the internet as the main distributor of media content shaping social norms, we're seeing a growing diversity of perspectives and a further expansion of ideas.
It appears that there is an issue at hand. However, there also appears to be hope. YouTube and other new media and emerging technologies have helped and assisted in the resurrection of civil society and the motivation for people to once again share their voices. No longer is there just unified views. Theorist Henry Jenkins is rather optimistic about this revolution. He feels that technologically innovative platforms offer society enough leverage to completely change our relationship with media companies. Amateurs now not only want to spread their message, but feel that they might actually have an impact. In Lawrence Lessig's book Code, the author explains how the internet has helped develop cyberspace. Within cyberspace, a virtual village emerged. This is a place where individuals can meet and freely discuss ideas that would normally be marginalized due to regulations and constraints in the tangible world. It is about making life different, or perhaps better. It evokes, or calls to life, ways of interacting that were not possible before. We can see how cyberspace has assisted in the progression of ufology as a discipline. Cyberspace acts as an area where individuals can come together, discuss, and expand on individual ideas, thus influencing the collective knowledge as a whole.
Use of the internet as a medium to compile, share, and discuss information within the ufology community has allowed for a great amount of expansion within the general knowledge base. Every tool available, from social networking to websites to blogs to video sites like YouTube and Vimeo, have been exploited to their utmost potential.
Cultural theorist Henry Jenkins explains how audiences empowered by these new technologies are demanding the right to participate within the culture. YouTube has acted as an outlet for people who usually have marginalized voices to feel like their opinions matter and that they want to be heard. Patricia Lang also explains how YouTube is a phenomenal platform to connect, network, and accumulate a large body of followers. Scholar Louis Len from the University of Hong Kong talks about how our civic engagement increases as our use of technology and different platforms increase as well. He also uses David Thomas's term technicity, which explains how social media and the use of different platforms also help develop social relationships between one another. As explained by Dr. Michael Strangelove, due to technologically advancing platforms, we now have the capability to have unconstrained expression. Billions of people are able to go online, post videos, and debate and argue with one another. This pushes the envelope for what would normally be marginalized ideas, and specific to our case, ufology as a discipline.